It's been a hot minute since I've redrawn some of my old art, and I know a lot of you guys are very eager for me to continue my old art series, so I should probably continue my redrawing old art series. Hello, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're doing well. I believe I asked you guys if you wanted me to look at all of my old art and then redraw some of the stuff, or redraw as I go along. So I'm redrawing as I go along. The last time I made a redrawing old art video was with it was me redrawing pieces I made when I was younger, just like on loose sheets of paper. And then in this video, I'm redrawing pictures that you have already seen if you have watched my unfinished sketchbook tour video. Ever since I started keeping sketchbooks, I have never not finished a sketchbook, but when I was younger, I was horrible at it, so it was a bunch of those. And I picked 3 pieces that I thought would be really fun for me to redraw. First up, we have a picture of Wendy and Shelia from Fairy Tail. If you are a returning viewer, it is no secret that I love Fairy Tail. It's something that I have loved for a very long time, so there's probably going to be a piece of Fairy Tail fan art in all of these videos, and I'm sorry, but I drew a lot of fan art. In the original sketch, I believe I sketched in pencil first, and then I outlined it in ballpoint pen, but for this one, I wanted to actually draw it in ballpoint pen, because that is how I sketch now. I very rarely use pencil for just a sketch. The only time I ever sketch with pencil is if it's going to be a finished illustration, and the pencil is going to be erased later. And since this one I chose kind of as more of a warm-up, since it is more sketchy, I decided to go with pen, because that's how I normally warm up anyway. The picture itself is fairly simple, so there wasn't anything I really thought I should change. The main thing was the poses, and the poses themselves were fine. It's more of just me trying to make them look a little bit more natural and a lot less stiff than they did in the original. In the original drawing, since I only outlined it in pen and the lines were a lot more crisp, I added different tones using the ballpoint pen, but for this one, since I was sketching with the pen, like there was already different tones within like the sketches, like the sketchy lines, I should say. But I still wanted to add those different gray tones, so I decided to just stick with one tone, and I used a Tumblr brush marker. It just makes it a little bit more interesting to look at, I think. It's a nice way to make a sketch look a little bit more finished. And since with the original I definitely tried to make it look more finished, I decided to do that here. I also changed the facial expressions a little bit, just my personal preference really. I mean, Wendy's is basically the same, but I wanted to change Shelia's. Again, just a personal preference. I thought it would look nicer this way. Yeah, and other than that, the biggest change is just the style. Before I found my own art style, I drew in the Fairy Tail art style a lot because, again, it's a show I've loved for a long time. And even now, honestly, even though I drew it in my own style, and I can say that my style is my own, I feel like if you're familiar with the Fairy Tail art style, specifically the manga art style, I feel like you can see a lot of inspirations from that in my current style, because I've always just loved the art in Fairy Tail, again specifically the manga style, because it's a lot softer and a lot more detailed, which are things that I really try to put into my art. And yeah, this drawing took me the shortest amount of time to make, because again, it's just a sketch, but I did think it was a really great way to warm up for the rest of this video. The next drawing I picked is actually of an OC. The last time I made a redrawing art video, I actually took an old OC that I redesigned in a sketch vlog, and I think that would be really fun to do again for this character, so let me know what you guys think. I don't remember her name. If she had a name, she might not have had one, but she is a lot more put together than the OC that is now Robin, but I had a lot of fun doing that. So let me know if you guys would like another thing, and you can name her again, but only after I've redesigned her, so don't comment names yet. For this drawing though, I kept the design pretty much the same. Honestly, I think I drew this character at a time where I was starting to get better at character design, because this design isn't really like bad. I kind of like it. Like, obviously there are things that could be changed, and there are things that I would like to change if I do end up redesigning this character, but I think I have a pretty solid base for a character here. Good job, like 15-year-old me. Also, I'm pretty sure this character has like a color scheme and everything, because I think I have an old digital drawing of her. I guess I'll put it on screen now for funsies. So yeah, let's talk about the actual drawing I made now. I wanted to change up the pose a little bit. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of the new pose that I chose, but I mean, it gets the job done. It's fine. I don't strongly dislike it, I'm just not the biggest fan of it, but again, it gets the job done. I also wanted to puff out the hair a little bit more because if you know me at all, I love drawing poofy hair. That's why all of my characters have poofy hair. I could probably never have a character that's bald because I just love drawing hair so much, but that's something that I decided to kind of exaggerate, I guess you could say. Another thing I've noticed is that the way I changed shoes has drastically changed. I feel like that's something that has become kind of a staple of my art style. It's something that I really enjoy drawing, and I know it's something that a lot of you guys point out when it comes to my drawings. Don't worry, that shoe tutorial is still coming, I just don't know when. I promise I'm going to make it. It's the next tutorial I'm going to make, I just don't know when. In the original, I believe I did the same thing where I sketched with pencil and then I outlined it in a ballpoint pen. But this time I wanted to use a proper fine liner pen. Why can't I talk today? I wanted to use a proper line art pen, and so I used this Micron PN that I just had. I have a lot of them for some reason, so I just used one of those. I don't actually use black line art all that often, but I thought using black line art for this would be nice since that's what I used in the original. And also, whenever drawing is just a liner, I think the black and white look of it just looks really cool. Yeah, again, this one didn't take me very long at all. It was a pretty small drawing and it was a pretty quick drawing, so these, I guess, can both be kind of warm-ups for the main course of this video, you can say. The last drawing that I have is a drawing of Zuko. This is the newest one out of all of these old art things. I believe I made this when I was 17 or 18. I want to say 18, but I genuinely cannot remember. It was definitely within one of those two ages, because I remember showing this to people in my English class my senior year, and they were like, whoa, it's Zuko! And I was like, yeah, it's Zuko! So I wanted to redraw this one. And once again, I didn't want to change too much in terms of the posing. I was pretty happy with the pose. It was more of just small tweaks, like the way that the fingers were on the hand that was being pushed forward, and the slight angle of his face, like which direction that's facing, just really small things like that that are very subtle changes, but I think important changes to make. To be honest, I'm not quite sure I improved with like fire or dramatic lighting. I think if anything I improved with fire, but I have a really hard time making like really harsh dramatic lighting. Although in my defense, this is something that I would normally do digitally. I think it's a lot easier to get that effect digitally. At least I haven't found an effective way to get it traditionally. So whenever I make a drawing like this, I would normally go to my digital art for that, but this original drawing was in a Copic I don't know what just happened. The original one was Copics, so I wanted to make this one in Copics too. The main thing that I really wanted to focus on was to make him actually look his age. Now Zuko's still just a teenager. I believe he's like 16, around that age. So he's not like super old, but the way that I used to draw proportions, all of my characters looked very young. So I wanted to make him look just a little bit older in this new one. Something that I did in this drawing, which I've never actually done in a drawing before, was that I used different like colored liners. So I would have this Micron sepia pen and then this Copic sepia pen. The Copic one was much brighter. The Micron one honestly almost looks black, but I didn't want black necessarily. I wanted something a little bit lighter. And then for parts that would be closer to the fire and would be a little bit like brighter, I guess, I would use the Copic sepia liners because it is a lighter tone and it would just make that part look softer and brighter since it was closer to the fire. And then for the fire itself, I used I didn't even know that dryer was going. Wow. Has that been on the whole time? Okay, we get it. The laundry's done. Can you stop now? Thank you. Anyways. I used an orange liner for the actual fire itself. In the original, I didn't use a liner. And honestly, I kind of wish I didn't in this drawing, because fire is supposed to be a very free-form thing. It's not it's very unpredictable. That's the main thing with fire. So the shape is unpredictable, the sizes can grow unpredictably, it can spread unpredictably, and that's just the big part of fire. And so the line art makes it look a lot more like closed in and formed, if that makes any sense. The reason I decided to go with the liner is because I wanted to cut this drawing out and paste it on black paper, which you'll see that later, but I kind of wish that I figured out a way. The reason I wanted to put it on black paper is just because of the dramatic lighting effect. I thought that it would be really interesting because the fire is supposed to be like a glowing, because it's fire, so I wanted to see what it would look like on black paper. In my head, it looked different, but I mean, it still looks nice. I also used some different colors for the fire. In the original one, it was a lot more orange, and in this one, it's more yellow. This is mostly because I have a wider collection of markers now, and back then I was just working with what I had, but I have some really bright yellows now, and so I really tried to use that to my advantage, and I think the colors themselves look a lot more like fire. After I finished the drawing, I alternated between using scissors and using an X-Acto knife to cut the drawing out. At first I thought I wanted a white boulder
feels conflicted.
border. I thought I wanted a white border around the edge of the drawing, but I later decided I didn't like it, so I ended up cutting that off. And then I also used colored pencils as a finishing touch. This is something that I do in a lot of my drawings now, pretty much every Copic illustration, and I think it's a big change from what I used to do, but I wanted to do it in this one specifically because I wanted to try using the colored pencils to give the fire more of like a glowing effect. I tried to do it a little bit with the markers, but the main thing that was throwing it off was the line art, because it would like, the fire would be in front of it, and I don't know if it makes sense, but I hope I'm making sense. That doesn't make any sense. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Honestly, it could have been better. Like, there was an attempt. I don't think it's bad, and I do think that me doing that added something to the drawing, but it's something that I would definitely need to have a lot more practice in before I can make it look good, I guess. Like, again, I don't hate it. I think it was an important thing for me to add to the drawing, but I wish I knew a better way to do it. And with that, there's Zuko. I think it's definitely an improvement. I would like to think that it's an improvement. And those are the 3 drawings that I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed them. I always really like redrawing old art. Like, I get a lot of questions about people asking how to be confident in your art, and if you're feeling like your art isn't good, I would highly recommend going back and picking an old drawing and redrawing it, because even if you aren't happy with your skill level now, you will see improvement. So these drawings are from like 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, depending on my age, 5 years ago. Take a drawing that's pretty old and redraw it, even just a year ago, but and you'll definitely see improvement. It's something that I really like doing anyway. And if you like the redraws that I made in this video, give this video a thumbs up. I'm pretty happy with how they all turned out, although it's funny to see that like even the ones that I don't like that much are better than the original, so we love improvement. And if you are new here, hello, my name is Oliver. I post a new art video every single Wednesday and bonus videos whenever I can. I draw a lot of my own original characters, but I will also make fan art like you saw in this video, so if you liked the art in here, I'd appreciate it if you could stick around. And speaking of posting my art, I also have social media. They will be on screen now and linked in the description box below. If you did want to see my art, I would recommend following me on Instagram because that is where I post it, and there will also be some videos on screen now and linked in the iCard for you to check out if you want. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye.